So welcome back to Writing on Air. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for turning up or tuning in. I just want to start out by saying a massive thanks to our guys on tech. We've got 2 Joes, a Duncan, and an Elliot. So give it up for them. They did a fantastic job of improvising for us in our last show. So yeah, great job, guys. And now we're here for Beowulf by Treadlight Theatre. 4 storytellers, 1 ancient tale. 1,000 interpretations. Live theatre performance of a thrilling, darkly comic retelling from Treadlight Theatre.
Sorry, we're going to go to a bit of music now. Seems a long Another round of applause, please. There's the music, there you go.
Greetings, friends. Good tidings we bring. You gather here to hear the tales of a king.
Of a hero.
Of a bone snapper and tooth smasher.
Of a man. Of Beowulf.
Slayer of Grendel.
Who tangled with
And
dragons.
claimed a kingdom for his own.
This is a tale drenched in blood, of screams in the night and hideous beasts.
Normally, I would deliver this tale myself. I was told it as a child, and I had vowed to pass it on. My compatriots here join me with fresh eyes and ear to share in the tale of Beowulf.
I take any moment to hear the deeds of great men.
Oh, and there is no greater than Beowulf. I've heard this tale in pieces a dozen times. To hear it from a scholar will be quite the treat. This story makes the very walls of Mead Hall shake when it is said.
I've heard before a bedtime tale. It's a blood-curdling tale of horror, of monsters and blood.
It is a tale of good and evil, of righteous might prevailing over horror, of being more than a man, of being a hero. Our tale takes place across the sea and the plains, in Heorot, the great hall of Hrothgar, the king of the Danes.
So not our king.
But a king nonetheless, and a man of repute and power, who cried out for aid in his darkest hour.
For the monster Grendel
The
stalked.
time for stalking is not yet, but it is true that amongst those halls a horror crept. Hrothgar had united a land. From southern marshland to northern snow his kingdom spanned. Heorot, the Hall of the Heart. This is the place our story will start.
Hall of the Heart.
The hart, the royal stag, a kingly animal for a great ruler.
I've seen many a stag mauled by a boar. I do not see what makes them so royal.
Well, they are noble and powerful creatures, friends to the gods of those northern lands.
If I were royal, I would map my kingdom with a more fitting animal. Something powerful, unmanageable.
Well, they celebrated the hart, although they had love for all animals, even your mighty and feral and insolent boar.
There's only one boar around here.
The hart
The friend of Freya.
was to the heathens indeed royal in character. No better name could be chosen for the hall. It was a shining beacon, the jewel in Hrothgar's sprawl. It was bright, clean, full of life, all that man strives for, cutting out the land like a knife. Around it, puted, fetid swampland that fought against all civilization, all attempts to bring it to hand.
Is this flighting the manner you intend to tell this tale?
This is an epic poem.
A poem? Is that why it is so fanciful?
I've not heard it said this way before. Perhaps your tongue makes the rhymes more painful.
I assure you, the melody is as sweet as it needs to be. Don't get in the way of the message.
Message? But continue, my friend. You were telling of Hrothgar's mighty keep that bordered that tangled swamp.
So Hrothgar built his castle on the border of a swamp? That seems mad. Why not place it somewhere more practical?
That is the point of the thing, to show dominion and power. Hrothgar was a unifier of men and a land, and he and his thanes had felt safe in their fortress.
But what was the purpose of the place?
A counting house, a store for all of Hrothgar's treasures. They say he had ruled for 50 years of peace and prosperity, and Heorot was where all the kingdom's riches were collected and shared.
Perhaps peaceful and prosperous for them, but I'm sure all that gold came from Hrothgar's men going Viking.
Hrothgar's kingdom was a land of peace. His wise and fair temperament made the land flourish. The days of raiding and Vikings banished.
Tell that to our Northern Isles. I heard they burnt down Linda's farm again not a month ago.
Well, that hasn't happened for a century.
Aye, because all the monks all fled for their lives rather than withstand another harrowing.
Not all Danes are Vikings. Besides, Hrothgar's not king anymore. This is a chronicle. But Heorot, which had been a shining beacon, had turned into dark disarray.
Heorot had been besieged for 12 years, the once mighty hall now a place of whispers and fears. In the thick of the night, the horror...
Grendel! He crept into the hall at night whilst everyone laid asleep and picked a victim who he dragged back to his swampy lair. If they tried to fight, Grendel would snap their bones, gouge their eyes, break them and bring them to their end. Each man Grendel found, he chomped down to the bone and marrow. Not a bit of any man was found, devoured knuckles and buckles and belts and braids and all.
So Hrothgar's men just waited each night to be picked off? Why not go hunt the beast?
Grendel's home was deep in the swampland. Even if he hadn't stalked silently like a thief in the night, no man could have pursued through the marsh and the bracken and the ooze.
If Grendel was a creature of the swamp, I'd have killed the swamp, destroyed his home.
And how would you kill a swamp?
With trenches and drainage. My grandfather came across a swamp not too far from here. He dug trenches and let the water seep off elsewhere, returning to the earth. The land was left fertile and commendable. Surely Hrothgar would do such a thing.
Well, perhaps Hrothgar had more respect for the natural world.
But not enough respect to not build a fortress on the natural world. Is that what angered this beast so thoroughly, to spur on its nightly feast?
They say the sound of singing is what spurred on Grendel's rage, piercing the natural sounds of the monster's swamp.
Singing? Just like the Danes to caterwaul at night.
And you never sing songs?
Only when singing is the thing to do, when a triumph has been had.
Or too many drinks have been had.
But the Dame folk, they sing in the mornings, they sing in the afternoons, they sing in the evenings. They sing if their hens lay eggs. They sing if the wind blows steady. They sing if their hair falls down nicely in the morning. They sing...
When they cleave heads from bodies, when they set churches ablaze, when they stretch out prisoners blood-eagled, when they pillage, when they decimate.
Exactly. They sing at the slightest provocation. No wonder this Grendel had had his fill.
Oh, he had his fill. He ate every man and every woman and every child who laid alone in that great hall, until it became nothing but a tomb, its white marble floors rusted and grim.
Indeed, it was a time of woe and grief, waiting for a hero to bring relief.
Beowulf.
Yes, the mighty Beowulf heard the call, and after 12 years set out to make the horror stall. He was a young man of the Geats, proud and fine. He gathered his crew and set out across the stormy brine. He landed in the Daneland with 14 warriors.
14? I thought this Beowulf was mighty. I've seen larger retinues assembled to go hunting. Hardly seems enough to save an entire country.
Beowulf alone was enough to come to Hrothgar's aid. He was keen and wise and mighty. He was nephew to Higelac, who had claimed his country for the Geats from the mighty Swedes.
Swedes? So where did these Geats make their home?
Gotaland, just south of Sweden.
Go to land? What does that mean?
The land of the Geats, or the Goths as you might know them.
Sounds dreary. Geat or Goth or Goat, it's all the same to me.
These were great men, forged in great times. King Higelac of the Geats was cunning and powerful, and even though he had a son and heir, he treated Beowulf with kindness and respect. Beowulf had been fostered with his grandfather, Higelac's father, and was raised around royalty from a young age. But Beowulf was mighty and fine and tempestuous and loved.
And yet, only had a tongue strong enough for 14 shield bearers.
Beowulf and the 14 arrived at the Great Hall, where they were advised of what horrors awaited upon nightfall. They heard that some had tried to battle Grendel, but no weapons forged by man could strike a death knell. The beast could be wounded, but only for a time, and would return sharpish to once again dine. Beowulf listened to what was said.
And came up with a plan so cunning, the beast would soon be dead. Not only was Beowulf strong, he was smart. He ordered his men to lock tight the great hall, to make to sleep there overnight. Then they started a great celebration, singing and dancing and caterwauling to tempt the beast that very night. Beowulf ordered his men to sleep in the great hall, covered by blankets. Beowulf himself, alone, exposed, a prime target, a noble sacrifice.
Because Grendel, beastly and strong as he was, still had the instinct of an animal, preferring to snatch the weaker members.
So Beowulf, separated from the others and pretending to be asleep, waited and waited until a frosting breeze entered the hall and silence fell. Grendel was in their midst.
Grendel looked to be a man, but was greater and more hideous than any person could be, stooping to enter the high-ceilinged hall, crawling along the ground on all fours like a beast, his skin iron-scaled and steel-spiked. He set upon Beowulf and tried to drag him out into the black night, but found his quarry unwilling to move.
Beowulf, upon feeling Grendel's claw upon him, leapt out and wrestled the beast to the ground.
Wrestled? A man the size of a house?
Oh, but he did. And Grendel could not believe the strength of the man. But Grendel knew that no man-made weapon could harm him.
Grendel was surprised when the fist of Beowulf smashed some of the hideous teeth from his mouth. Beowulf wrestled him, beat him to the ground, gouged and tore at his iron skin, and ripped his arm from the very socket, barehanded.
It is impossible to rip a man's arm.
But Beowulf did.
It is impossible.
And Grendel screamed in shock and horror as Beowulf held the bloody stumped arm aloft, black oozing onto Heorot's floor, the hot blood burning where it fell.
You cannot simply rip off an arm.
But in this case, Beowulf did.
It is impossible.
He ripped the arm off.
Fine, this Geatish man wrestled a creature as tall as a great hall, bested him easy, and tore an arm asunder like that.
Ah, yes. You do understand.
The beast was wounded and fearful. It sprang off into the night away from the mead hall. Beowulf's retinue had awoken at the sound of the fight, the monstrous arm held aloft by their hero, a ghoulish sight. Although the men now were in number diminished, for my young friend's telling was a little varnished, Beowulf had ordered his men to sleep in the hall and waited for Grendel after nightfall. But the beast had found a prey at the witching hour, one of Beowulf's retinue whom Grendel did devour. Grendel ate Beowulf's man in clothes and all, before Beowulf awoke, leapt into the fray, and did brawl.
What a coward. To not save a shield brother is shameful.
Only Beowulf could have matched Grendel. It was not down to individual mettle. Beowulf was God-blessed and worthy to fight the ancient and old adversary.
I thought the Geats had their own gods.
But even with this loss, there was still much to celebrate. Beowulf had defeated the creature that had haunted Heorot for so long. The warriors looked at the titan arm that Beowulf had wrenched from Grendel.
The arm was gnarled and twisted and beastly, man-shaped but grown huge and morbid and wrong, oozing a fetid black liquid, more of which pooled and dabbed in the direction that Grendel had fled, into the swamp where Grendel made his lair.
All who looked upon Beowulf felt blessed in his presence, although their minds turned to the swamp dark and dense. The wind carried to Heorot cries of anguish as the great beast in that cursed land did perish.
So the beast was dead? Already? After a dozen years of terror, all it took was a brawl in a hall to put an end to things.
Beowulf was righteous and strong. Of course he bested the beast.
And stood proud in front of his men, drenched in black blood, a fire in his eyes, his thirst for violence sated.
He was God-blessed to succeed in this fight, his spirit and soul a champion for what is right.
Seems odd to celebrate Beowulf for being God-blessed.
Beowulf was the destined hero, the threads of fate bringing him to Hrothgar's aid.
But that is what I mean. If Beowulf's story is dictated by fate or some divine intervention, then why celebrate the man?
Because he defeated a great evil.
But he was destined to do so. The threads of fate dragged him. Divine inspiration powered him. The man himself did nothing. He's just a thread in a tapestry.
Just because you have no destiny, you fling mud, you're petty and small, an insolent pup.
I may be petty and small, but the things I do are mine to do. My achievements are mine, not some pre-trodden path that I'm acting out. Whatever I do myself. Fate be damned, and gods too. This Beowulf isn't a man, he's just an actor.
If fate dictates it all, then everyone murdered by Grendel was also a part of that fate. Are they not destined too?
Destined? To be eaten?
If they aren't eaten, then Beowulf can't achieve his destiny. If fate weaves a path for Beowulf to best Grendel, then fate also weaves a path for those poor souls that lead straight into Grendel's belly.
You don't understand fate.
Or divine intervention.
To offend was not my intention.
The following morning, Hrothgar's retinue did greet Beowulf's party and learn of Grendel's brutal defeat. Hrothgar was overjoyed and set out a party to arrange to consecrate and reward his new thanes. But doubt curdled in Beowulf's belly, screeches and roars from the swamp making him unsteady.
So is Grendel dead?
Well, Beowulf ripped its arm off at the root. It limped into the swamp, bleeding out. Grendel was assuredly dead.
I've seen beasts take on such injuries and continue on almost unimpeded. Deer with arrows through their throat, boars missing eyes, a fox with only 3 legs. My uncle thought he got the best of a badger, pin-cushioned it with arrows and had it cornered for the death blow. But the accursed thing found some well of strength in its dying moments and maimed the poor man.
A badger maimed your uncle.
Aye, he barely survived the night, but he wasn't the same since.
Oh, tell me, please, what damage can a badger do? Its little jaw can make ferocious work, I bet.
It left his right hand with only the thumb and the littlest finger. A dying thing can be a hellion.
Unlike your uncle's murderous little creature, we know for certain Beowulf had put an end to Heorot's Reaper. But this was just the start of the story. After 12 long years of pain and misery, the great mead hall was alive with revelry. Lands and riches were promised to our hero for his mighty deed, but unknown to them, more pain had taken seed. Beowulf was given a holding on the periphery of Heorot and was away from the hall when it was attacked by a mother, distraught.
In the dead of the night, a great scream was heard from the hall. Putrid water seeped across the floor. Blood splattered across the walls. Great men scattered like children as she stormed Heorot.
She?
Grendel's mother, frenzied with grief and lusting for blood.
Another monster?
Yes.
Maybe. She was a witch of the swamp, a being of magic.
She was a woman, spurred on by the loss of her son.
She was the adversary, a demon of endless infamy.
So she stormed Heorot in revenge for Grendel?
And to steal back the piece of her son Beowulf had taken.
Those Vikings do love to take their gruesome trophies.
She cut a swath across the hall, men dropping like flies, and in the terror and the confusion of her rage-bound rampage, she stole away with Grendel's severed limb and cut down the greatest of Hrothgar's warriors with barely an effort, strung up by his guts when Beowulf discovered the scene the following morning.
Another victim of Beowulf's heroic destiny.
Beowulf was not there at the time, but he would get swift revenge.
Was the harrowing of the hall not an act of revenge enough? A score settled?
In the bloody hall, Beowulf swore to the king that Grendel's mother would pay for this atrocious sin. As Beowulf gathered his men for expedition, there was a break in tradition. A warrior of Hrothgar's who had battled Grendel in vain approached our hero at first with a look of disdain. But falling to his knees, he unclipped his weapon from his belt ring and presented to Beowulf his ancestral sword Runting. Runting was an ancient and magical blade. Countless men and horrors it had slayed, never failing in the heat of a fight. It was presented as a gift in recognition of Beowulf's might.
I could not imagine giving up my family sword.
Well, this warrior understood that only Beowulf could put an end to the blight. It was an act of contrition.
It was an act of bending the knee.
It was an act of faith in their hero, understanding that he had been sent for this deed.
The sword in hand, Beowulf found the trail of viscera that Grendel had left in her rampage of terror.
The trail stretched from Heorot deep into the swamp, where 1,000 beady, inhuman eyes watched as they picked their way through the muck and the mire. The trail would be lost at times, but then a broken branch daubed with blood would be spotted, or carrion would circle over a discarded lump of man. Eventually, the trail stopped at the edge of a grand lake, pure and clear and deadly.
The lake was where the adversary made her domain, and Beowulf would have to follow under the water if she were to be slain. Checking his armor and his gifted blade, Beowulf gave farewells to his men and bade that if he were to fall in his mission, his rewards among his men be split in equal division.
So, Beowulf dived into the lake and descended deep beneath the surface.
Twisted sprites and monsters attacked him as he swam, puppets made of rock and seaweed and ancient bones, clawing and swiping as he swam. Finally, endlessly, Beowulf emerged into an underwater cave.
Beowulf spotted his quarry in the middle of the grotto and made to kill her with one swift blow.
But the mother was powerful and cunning and rage-filled. She deflected the blow from Runting, rending it from Beowulf's hand, breaking the bones and sinew as she did. The sword was thrown to the floor with viciousness, splintering into 1,000 pieces.
The sword failed.
The sword was not destined to kill Grendel's mother. Beowulf was. The power of men faltered in that moment, weak and displaced.
Beowulf regarded the clump of muscle and sinew and bone that had been his hand and tied it tightly. He fixed his eyes on the mother, and they fought.
The mother was not as strong as Grendel, but she was quick and she was fierce, like the torrent of a roaring river chipping away at even the grandest of mountains. Every blow that Beowulf landed found no purchase. She was resolute. Nothing but rage and purpose. She scratched and clawed at Beowulf, his armor gouged with each blow, sparks flying, teeth gnashing, hope fading.
The battle was hopeless, and defeat seemed absolute. But Beowulf would not give in, his spirit resolute. As the monster rained down blows and venom, Beowulf spotted, in the corner, a new weapon. Hung from the wall was a broadsword of devout purpose. If only Beowulf could seize it and make the death thrust.
It was a dwarf-forged blade of legend, big enough to slay giants and pulsing with magic.
A god-forged sword, fit for a seraphim. Beowulf broke from the fray and ran for it with a scream.
Wrenching it from the wall, a sword the size of a man, he took it in his good hand and slashed at his foe. It struck true, taking her head from her body, her blood daubing the lake dark red. Her body melted into the water, and for a moment, Agiat considered he would return empty-handed.
But then he spotted, in the corner of the cave, the monstrous corpse of Grendel.
For a divine light now illuminated the cave, showing Beowulf the trophy
Dragging
he did crave.
himself to it, he lifted the giant bane blade and arced it down, taking Grendel's head from its body. Grendel's hot blood sizzled on the blade, melting and leaving nothing but the hilt. Beowulf grabbed Grendel's head and made a return to the surface, free at last of the horror of Grendel and his life-bringer. Breaking the surface, grisly head held high, Beowulf's men erupted into rapturous applause at the sight of their returning champion. You seem skeptical.
No, not at all. It all seems very common sense. Beowulf diving to the bottom of a lake, fighting a woman or monster or whatever she was, who immediately smashes the sword he's just been gifted, only to be defeated by another magical sword that is just in her lair.
So we were clear in our storytelling.
Oh yes, it makes perfect sense that a sword is just hanging there.
It was divine intervention that placed the sword in Beowulf's hand that allowed him to rid the adversary from the land.
It was his thread of fate that led to that sword being there.
Fate or divine intervention, it just seems too easy for it to be just hanging there. Like the monster or mother had set it up perfectly.
I have many swords hung up in my house. I hope to be killed by one day.
Perhaps Grendel's mother knew what part she played in Beowulf's destiny and set up her own death trap.
To seize an enemy's weapon and use it against them is a test of cunning and mettle.
Seemed a shame to be skewered by your own weapon.
I hear the majority of stabbings are done with the victim's own blade.
Where did you hear that?
London. My grandfather fell in a similar way.
Beheaded by a dwarf-forged, god-gifted blade?
Stabbed with his own pitchfork.
Oh,
Over a chicken.
right.
His cockerel had got out and went a-courting with next door's hens. Ended up fertilising the lot of them for weeks on end.
Not quite the same thing, though, is it?
Next door got so mad, he came round and started a fight. Ran my grandfather through, pinned him to the door.
My God!
He wasn't too well liked, so he stayed pinned there for a few evenings. They only found him when a local dog gnawed off his foot and dumped it in the town centre.
My God!
My father still has that pitchfork on his farm. He said it was obviously sturdy, if it could support a man for 3 days.
Not quite dwarf-forged, though.
The town blacksmith was a little fella.
You see, just like this farmyard dispute, it's perfectly believable that Grendel's mother would fall to her own weapon, especially when it was wielded by a hero.
It is divine intervention. It's a little part faith and a little part dramatic tension. This story is a little like allegory. It teaches us lessons, and these are important to heed. With the story of Beowulf, you need to look beyond the hows and the whys of his deeds. I mean, he is a beacon of justness, of divine grace.
He mostly seems to punch things. I don't see the grace in that.
The world is an evil place, cruel and malcontent. Only a heavenly kingdom is our reward. But sometimes God moves the pieces around to balance out the board. This mortal life is just transitory, but even then it needn't be full of horrors and fear. We are gifted by men like Beowulf to remind us that we are still loved, even in this muck and mire of a life.
Surely God could cleanse the land himself. Why work via puppets when he could turn Grendel to salt, blind the mother, and bind whatever beast crawled out of the pit?
Well, God is not a magician. He guides people to what they must do.
Especially those with supernatural strength and God-given powers.
Nevertheless, can we continue the tale?
Do what you will. I look forward to hearing what else falls into his lap.
Beowulf fought for everything he had. He wrestled a man the size of a mead hall.
Inside said mead hall.
And battled a water witch under an endless lake.
With the help of a handily found magical sword.
It's Denmark. Half the swords are at least a little magic.
Iron is iron, whether forged by dwarves or dropped from the heavens.
He freed Denmark from its greatest bane.
He murdered a mother and a child.
Oh, everyone is someone's child.
And what was his reward for this great deed? Riches, thaindom, some more men for his meagre retinue.
He was made the king of Denmark.
The king of the Danes.
It was a great deed!
Great deeds don't earn great rewards. Every king, every noble, every man who holds dominion, they got there through cunning, through alliance, through butchery, through fluke of birth. No one gives up power, bequeaths their throne to some ragged stranger.
And yet, Hrothgar did.
Hrothgar did not bestow upon Beowulf a crown, but paved the way for Beowulf's future renown. With Grendel and his mother slain, Beowulf returned to the heart of Hrothgar's domain. The king greeted Beowulf as a peer, the man who had cast out Denmark's fear.
But Beowulf did become king.
You are jumping ahead in the story. At the moment, it's time of heroic glory. Hrothgar saw in Beowulf the makings of a king.
And proclaimed Beowulf heir.
He offered guidance and insight to shape a future king with both might and right.
A lecture seems like poor recompense for murdering two monstrosities.
Yes, he should have got 2 lectures, surely.
I wasn't disputing the number of lectures. It just seems like a meagre reward.
The Danes are an odd lot. I once knew a trader who bartered everything at the cost of 1 horse.
Really? So, an apple?
1 horse.
A house?
1 horse.
Was he mad?
No, he just believed in the spirit of bartering.
That's not bartering, that's just some kind of horse-based economy.
I'm sure Hrothgar had more riches than simple wisdom.
Perhaps, or maybe that's why Beowulf only brought 14 men with him.
It's not like he needed them.
Well, other than as bait.
Hrothgar impressed on Beowulf wisdom, lessons to lead a kingdom. Hrothgar warned of the sin of pride, that which had led many to the other side. Those who are prideful, who do not prepare for death, would find themselves suddenly bereft. To know all men are mortal is paramount. To live life with inevitable death never being in doubt.
To run from death is very undane-like. They embraced it, celebrated it, courted it. To die in battle would earn them a place in Valhalla.
That's how the stories go. But I've met many a Dane who don't pine for some ghostly mead hall. But the braggarts do love to talk a big game.
Death is but a stage of life, transitioning good souls to paradise.
And the bad?
Oh, well, they're condemned to eternal punishment, fire and torture for the non-penitent.
Oh, how are they punished? Is it macabre and grim?
It is divine retribution, not something for your ghoulish fascination.
Just wanted to hear about the torture.
Next, Hrothgar advised on a lesson that had made many stumble. To be at all times and all things humble. to recognise that all earthly rewards and holdings are but a divine gift, God's tidings.
Did Hrothgar really believe this? That all was his was simply bequeathed to him by God?
Then Hrothgar warned that always fortune can change, that good blessings and direst fate can easily exchange.
This is starting to sound a little pious.
Oh, not at all. These were kingly lessons. To not count wealth based on your possessions. If you found yourself with riches by God's divinity, then you must share these with your community. And finally, that Beowulf must on others rely, that going alone will lead him to die. No man can prosper all alone, especially those who seek to sit on a throne. Hrothgar bade that Beowulf pick one of his shield brothers and mark him as heir to all his lands and coffers.
Lessons from a noble king on how to lead his people and how to stay true to your roots.
This is advice on how to lead a life free of avarice to ensure your safe passage.
Perhaps to you, Hrothgar was a man of the Danes. He didn't fear hellfire or bend the knee. If he died with honor, then to Valhalla, but there is a difference between piety and honor.
We are not the ones to make that judgment, but I assure you, all will be judged.
Aye, for their metal, not their bootlicking. You're a crafty one, Sage.
I tell the story as it will always be, and hope that those with ears can understand the worth of abandoning their thirst for riches for a longer lasting reward.
I've heard differently of gold and horses and riches.
The story is as I have told, that Beowulf should be just, resolute and bold.
I have heard that Hrothgar was a fine gift giver, that he had united the land through power, alliance, and gifts of wealth, that upon being presented with the hilt of that dwarf-forged monster-bane blade, Hrothgar immediately bestowed upon Beowulf 8 beautiful white stallions.
Horse-based economy!
And gold! Golden armor and rings and coins and banner made of pure gold.
How would the banner fly?
What?
A banner. It dances in the wind. If it was gold, it would just sit there, rigid.
Well, the pole of the banner was gold.
So, with horses and poles and all manner of gold, what did Beowulf do next?
The dragon.
The what?
Fork-tongued, fire-breathing, bat-winged and devious, scaled like a lizard, and with fangs the size of a broadsword.
A great flying beast of devilish design, but our friend has, once again, skipped ahead in time.
I know what a dragon is. It just seems unexpected.
Dragon!
Beowulf and his retinue, following Hrothgar's hospitality, made their way back to Higelack's kingdom across the sea.
Taking the horses and the gold and the golden pole with them.
Taking all the treasures with them, and the undying love of Hrothgar's admiration.
So where does the dragon fit in?
The Geatlands are famous for their dragons.
Are they?
Oh, quiet, both of you, and we'll get to it.
Beowulf sailed back from Hrothgar's domain to his home, the land of the Geats, where he was greeted as a hero by his royal uncle and cousin.
Ah, yes. Beowulf was like a cuckoo, an outsider egg hatched amongst another brood.
Higelac was his uncle. There was still a blood bond. Higelac own heir, Heardred, viewed Beowulf more like a brother than a cousin.
That's a little confusing.
Not at all. It's very common. I know someone in town whose cousin is also their brother.
So Beowulf returns home and his uncle Higelac and his cousin/brother Heardred are excited to see him. They were not perhaps hoping Beowulf might have failed in his quest, knocking the cuckoo out of the nest.
No such animosity prevails, as Beowulf his heroic deeds regales. The reward for such a mighty beast slain is position of heir and trusted thane.
How does Herdred feel about that?
Well, Heardred is still next in line for the throne. Beowulf is the...
Spare?
Aye. When Higelac dies, the throne shall pass to Heardred. Should Heardred die with no issue, then the throne will pass to Beowulf.
Something tells me death is going to make quick work of Higelac and his son.
Shortly after Beowulf's return, Higelac was leading a raid against the Frisians.
I think I know what's about to happen.
Along those coastal regions, Higelac raided for goods and plunder. But in such a raid, Higelac did fall, his body torn asunder.
Was Beowulf not with him?
Beowulf did not take part in raids.
Seems odd considering it's the family trade.
It was beneath him.
How do you know? What do you know of Beowulf the man?
He was a hero, a king, a slayer of monsters, and a leader of men.
But what kind of man was he? As a child, was he studious or troublesome? As a young man, did he chase after women, or was he besotted with one true love?
They do not say. And it does not matter. What matters is what we know of him, of his deeds.
A man is made up of more than his deeds.
A man is nothing but his deeds.
A man's deeds do not show his character. All they are good for are headstones and stories.
Yet, we talk about Beowulf now. About his deeds, about his legend. Well, who will know of you in 50 years? Who will tell your story? A meagre nothing bleating about their better.
I do not need to be remembered to know my life is well lived.
Oh, well, then what's the point of living?
Higelac's death thrust his son into kingly duties, cut short by a violent incursion from the neighbouring Swedes. With no living heir, the crown did pass to our hero, and the stature of the Geats did grow.
Beowulf was a king who was mighty and benevolent, and the Geats entered a golden age of prosperity.
What happened to the Swedes?
The Swedes?
The ones who killed Beowulf's childhood friend. Surely our hero took a measure of revenge against them.
Perhaps.
A berserker rage against those who wronged him, taking his foes' heads, scattering their armies, burning their families to the ground.
We know that Beowulf brought in an era of peace.
Built on mortar ground from his enemies' bones.
Beowulf was not a tyrant.
But he's a man of action. Wrestling Grendel, beheading the mother, a man of violence and renown. He gets things done. He would cut a swath through those Swedes, their snow-laden homes, red with blood.
All we know is that there was prosperity for 50 years.
But how?
If we accept it, we can get to the dragon.
Dragon.
After 50 years of wise and just rule, Beowulf's kingdom was threatened by the actions of one fool. A man appeared in Beowulf's court holding a golden chalice, stolen from the lair of a creature of utmost malice. This slave...
A slave? A slave in Beowulf's golden kingdom?
Do you want to hear the story or not?
It's a part of the culture.
When they went to Viking, they'd take more than just gold and goods. They'd take people as chattel too, to labour and do the tasks beneath them.
I know what they do. All too well. So this slave, how did they get their hands on a chalice?
They had been exploring a mountain on the edge of the kingdom, a dark and foreboding place. Within that peak, they had found a dragon hold, a repository of treasure stolen by that mythic beast in its centuries-long life.
I've heard that dragons are cunning things, with twin loves of acquiring wealth and melting people with their fire-licked breath.
The creature was roused by the theft, starting a rampage of fire and death. The bat-winged beast following in a rage, the slave who had set the stage for a final godly feat. A devil's final defeat.
The devil.
A devil, like the great red dragon that will mark Revelation.
But not the red dragon.
Well, a cousin of the devilish beast.
So, what did this bat-winged beast do exactly?
It stalked the slave back to Beowulf's lair, burning and ravaging the lands. As it arrived in Beowulf's home, it unleashed a torment.
Spewing hellfire into Beowulf's home, reducing stone to ash and men to bone. Its anger could not be sated by any measure, its focus on that single piece of stolen treasure. Like Solomon knew what must be done, throwing the goblet back at the maw of the dragon. Reunited with the object of its desire, it disappeared, cloaked by raging fire.
What of the slave?
Oh, well, the stories don't speak of him further.
He's probably bones, charred and brittle and blackened.
You see, Beowulf was wise. He did not attempt to fight this mythological beast. Oh, he knew he was outmatched, but stemmed its rage.
The next day, Beowulf set out to murder the dragon.
Oh.
He's just a remorseless killer.
Why do you enjoy unpicking this? You are like a child pulling at a tapestry.
Because I know what people do in the name of the Beowulfs of the world. They see a problem and they just seek to kill it, destroy it, burn it to the ground.
Beowulf is just a story. If men choose to use it to justify their dark hearts and their cruel deeds, that is their failing.
Just a story? Then why is it so important to you?
I like to imagine a world where someone who is as powerful as Beowulf does good. With all that threaded fate or God-given power, he comes to people's aid. He helps Hrothgar. He rules benevolently. He doesn't want or conspire or scheme or depose. He just exists.
But that is not what great men are like. They are vicious and cunning, and in the aftermath of all their cruelty, they make sure that people tell glorious stories of them. They gild themselves to balance the blood. When Beowulf sacrifices his men, when Beowulf can only respond with murder, that's where the story strains to tell the perfect truth. But if this Beowulf, in the stories that idolize him, is still a man of brutal violence and mad revenge, then what a monster the real person was. That's why there's no detail around how he became king or what kind of ruler he was. The story doesn't allow it.
Can a man not just be good?
A man can be many things, but never entirely good.
I pity you. Can you take no solace in these tales? Find nothing to admire, no beauty in the story?
It's a tale of monsters and blood and violence. Where is the beauty?
I find it beautiful.
See, our friend finds beauty in the tale.
This tale of man's devotion to fighting evil, wherever it stands, should be an inspiration to us all.
It's just violence and kings and monsters.
But violence is beautiful. Blood on the snow paints patterns. The haze from a raised building makes sunrises glisten. The ice on a woman frozen to the ground can look like jewels.
I don't follow, my friend. How can you see beauty in those imagings?
The world is cruel. You have said as much. Like you, I know great men are brutish and monstrous, but if the world is made of blood and hate, then you can either cry about it or you can find beauty and learn to love what you find.
Or you can not accept that the world is brutal and cruel. You can refuse.
The world's a pit. Can't claw our way out. Best gnaw at the scraps and wait for the worms, eh? Maybe as our sage says, there's a feast in the dark after.
Yes, my friend, you understand. If you live a just and devout life, you will also receive your eternal reward of...
Torture and hellfire.
Oh, no! An end to suffering! A life blessed and peaceful and calm!
Or we can make the world better now by abandoning this foolish hero worship.
Oh, I wish you could see this through my eyes. You could enjoy being swept up in the story of a great man.
I've met many a great man in my time, and I've lost something at every turning.
I'm sorry for whatever happened to you.
Let's continue, shall we? We need not deprive the ghoul of their dragon slaying.
Stories allow us to imagine the best. Beowulf was a noble and benevolent king, graced by God to bring harmony to the Geats.
And what of the Geats after feeling the lick of dragon fire?
Well, those not killed in the dragon's raid disappeared to the far corners of the kingdom, hunkering down in their fortresses to wait out the beast, praying it would soothe itself into a new centuries-long sleep. From the rubble of his home, across his land did he roam, weaving a path following those that had seen the beast, finally finding its nest on a cruel mountain to the east. Beowulf was joined only by Beowulf, his truest friend. In his gut, he felt this was where his story would end. His 14 had abandoned him in his hour of need. Alone, but for brave Beowulf, he set out for his final deed.
Beowulf scaled the mountain with his companion and found the beast amongst its golden hoard, treasures from ancient kings and faraway lands. A doom pressed upon the king of the Geats, a gnawing in his stomach that his was coming to an end. He knew that only he could kill this dragon, but also that only he could bring peace and prosperity and keep his kingdom whole and noble.
Mortal doubt had finally caught up with the Geatish hero then. This creature of scales and fangs and fire more than he had ever faced.
Beowulf remembered the kingly lessons gifted by Hrothgar, those words that had stayed with him for decades and travelled so far. To run from death was to make it a constant companion. To embrace it, to challenge it, was the way of the champion. From the mountain's peak to the caverns deep, Beowulf descended where gold lay in sleep. A hoard of ages, treasures bright, gleaming under dragon light.
And in the centre, curled like a serpent, the dragon stirred.
It was waiting.
A beast that old. Oh, yes. It knew Beowulf was coming, and it welcomed him.
Beowulf with sword and shield stood powerful and true, but this devil-wrought beast he could not undo.
As the dragon rose, a mountain of iron scales, each one tougher than a war shield, it stretched its wings, and the wind of its power threw Beowulf back, scattering gold like dust. Then the fire came.
Fire so hot, the stones melted, running like wax. Beowulf raised his shield, but it burnt through in a breath. His arm singed, his sword scorched, and for the first time, the mighty Beowulf staggered.
He wasn't strong enough.
He was strong, but time is stronger.
He charged. Despite the pain, despite the heat, he charged. He leapt onto the beast's back, driving his sword down again and again, but it did nothing.
Nothing! The blade of kings, the warrior's arm, bounced off like a child's toy, and the dragon laughed.
The dragon knew it had bested its foe, rearing up to deliver a final death blow.
And that was it.
No. Even then, Beowulf fought. Even dying, he fought. His strength failing, his vision blurred, he reached for his sword, but the beast's claw pinned him, crushing the breath from his lungs.
A hero drowning in gold.
But then, Beowulf.
Aye, Beowulf, the last loyal one, the final brother.
He saw his king fall, saw death's hand closing in. He saw the enemy's triumph, and he would not allow it.
What did he do?
He ran. He ran through the burning horde, past fallen shields and melted crowns, ran through flame, through smoke, through the very breath of death, and he leapt.
Dagger in
He
hand.
struck true, his hand divinely guided.
Not with power, not with fate, with desperation, with action.
Beowulf was pulled by the same nern-woven threads as Beowulf. Beowulf, Beowulf's oldest friend, leapt across the sea of gold. A dagger in the dragon's eye. A shock, a stumble. Stunned and hurt, the beast shifted back, allowing Beowulf to break the surface and press his attack. Using his one good arm and the last beats of a mythic heart, he wrenched the sword up to the dragon's neck, following that sinewy branch all the way to the head. Driving it to the hilt, the dragon crashed back, Beowulf falling upon it, staring into its ancient eyes as the life dripped out of it. Only when the light of the beast was finally gone did the king of the Geats fall to the floor and smile to his friend. His last breath was on that dragon horde. His last sight was of his friend and heir, the dragon slayer, young Beowulf.
What happened to the dragon?
It had a sword driven all the way up its neck to its head.
And?
It died. Beowulf killed it.
But it was full of fire. What happened to all that hellfire when it died?
The fire seeped out of the dragon's corpse, catching the golden horde ablaze. It burned, with Beowulf in the centre as the fire blazed.
The most expensive funeral pyre you will ever see. A molten mountain of gold is in these Geatlands somewhere. One ignominious end, abandoned by his friends, killed far from home, drowned in gold he will never see. And for what?
Because it was the right thing to do.
To die? If he had ruled for 50 years and brought nothing but prosperity, then surely to throw his life away would doom that kingdom. If what you say is true, Beowulf was a shrewd and kind leader of men who occasionally fought monsters. If he had lived longer, then surely the kingdom would prosper longer.
He died the way he lived, honourable, as Hrothgar had instructed him, unafraid, unbound, ready to accept his fate.
And Beowulf? What happened to him?
He became king of the Geats, a hero for his age. Because there are always heroes. And in living a life true to that heroism, Beowulf planted a seed, which would be nurtured by Beowulf and become the foundation for an enlightened epoch. Because all we can ask to live a blessed life is to be a paragon for others, to live a life that inspires and enriches, to become a story that nourishes the world.
Because there are always good stories.
There is always inspiration.
There will always be great men, and stories allow us to mould them to our liking.
And so ends the tale of Beowulf,
The killer of Grendel.
The saviour of Heorot.
The murderer of a mother.
the benevolent king.
who danced with dragons.
And inspired the next generation.
A great man.
Why did you come here?
To hear the story.
To destroy the story, to tear it all down.
If something can be destroyed with questions, it wasn't very sturdy.
The world needs Beowulf. These stories of great deeds. This audience will go home with a champion in their hearts.
And the sweet song of divine grace in their ears. Stories are a tool, just like an axe or a sword or shackles.
I tell the stories it's meant to be told, and it's always been told.
Perhaps in your northern pious reaches.
I say, give me the story of a man, not some puppet for the all-powerful or some driftwood caught in the stream of fate. If I were to take my bow and shoot a deer tomorrow, that act would have more weight than all of Beowulf's monster slaying combined. Because my heart wanted, my head decided, my hand acted.
You've said all this, and if you do not believe life is meant to be lived for a greater purpose, then I am sorry for you. You may see more value in the random ripples when you toss a stone into a lake than the exploits of an ordained man. But the idea of purpose, of having a goal in life beyond your own meager wants, is so important. You only think of yourself, your exploits, your desires. Oh, great men may be terrible at times, but they may also be just, wise, brave, and they may shape a young one's mind to make them a better version of themselves. They may cast light on a well-worn life, and they may give hope to those who find themselves in a world of horror. To bend the world is out of the grasp of most, but carrying a story such as this in your heart and sharing it with others allows at least a wellspring of a change.
Of course you believe that. It's a story that benefits your people.
My people.
You're of the Danelaw. I hear the occasional lilt in your voice.
My family has been here many generations. But you are right. It is a story of my people. But my people are your people.
Your people are slaughterers and conquerors.
My people are many things. Like Beowulf. Warriors, rulers, students, friends. Beowulf reminds my people of who they are, who they should be. It reminds people to take heed of Hrothgar's lessons. Can you not see the value in that?
I do not need to be told about some past great man to live a good life.
You do not even know what it means to live a good life. You are abandoned. Unless you see sense, this fleeting existence will give way to an eternity of suffering.
Do not use my people's past for your own aims.
Oh, they are not my aims. They are the aims. I seek to give people a chance for absolution, to reflect on how God guided the hand of even a savage like Beowulf.
Savage! Beowulf was of kingly blood.
A lineage forged in blood, not by divine right. There is only one true king.
Beowulf was a man of the Geats, who believed in Odin, Freya, Thor, a heathen. Do not use him to poison minds. He is not yours to shape.
And yet you do the same.
You spoke earlier of your grandfather, who irrigated a great swampland and made it a home. Your eyes glistened with pride.
My grandfather was the best of us. Smart and fair-tempered, carving out his own homestead, a bountiful place, until it was swallowed up in these shifting borders.
Do you never have moments where you take stock, reach a fork in the road and think, what would my grandfather do?
Aye, I often look to my memories of him for guidance.
Well, Beowulf is a grandfather to us all. Or you may not see it, but at times of strife, of indecision, we look to our heroes to guide us.
To shape you.
Yes, as your grandfather did to you. There is no crime in heeding the goodness and wisdom of our forebears. Yours is personal, but mine is cultural.
Beowulf, a grandfather to you all.
That is the purpose of a chronicle. To remind ourselves of where we came from, who we are, how good we can be.
A grandfather to us all.
Yes, a guiding hand in the dark.
Then maybe the world has too many grandfathers and not enough people who make their own way.
And yet, you listened.
Aye, I did.
And you'll tell it again, won't you?
Maybe.
Then the message lives on.
Then Beowulf lives on.
Then Grendel and the mother and the dragon and the violence lives on.
And so do we.